Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the massively popular 50-30-20 budgeting rule. Look, if you've ever Googled how to manage your money or honestly just scrolled through financial social media for 5 minutes, you have absolutely seen this rule. So, we're going to break down exactly how it works, take a hard look at its real-world limitations today in 2026, and explore some modern alternatives to help you finally take control of your finances. This isn't just about moving numbers around on a spreadsheet, it's about finding a strategy that actually fits your life. Let's get right into it. Here's a quick look at our roadmap. We'll start with what the 50-30-20 rule actually is, break down those needs, wants, and savings buckets, and talk about why people just absolutely love it. Then we'll ask the tough question. Does the math still add up today? Finally, we'll look at the zero-based alternative and figure out how to budget for your specific reality. All right, Section 1. What is 50-30-20? The origins of a viral money trend. You might assume a catchy viral ratio like this was cooked up by an influencer, but it actually goes back to 2005. It was popularized by bankruptcy expert and U.S. Senator Elizabeth Warren, along with her daughter Amelia Warren Taji, in their book, All You're Worth. Originally, it was just a straightforward guideline to keep families out of financial trouble. Fast forward to today, it has absolutely exploded online. People everywhere are using it as their go-to path for financial freedom. Moving to Section 2, needs, wants, and savings. To really get how this works, we have to look at exactly how the rule chops up your after-tax income. And hey, that is a super important detail right there. This whole system runs entirely on your net income. We're talking about the actual money that lands in your bank account after taxes and deductions are taken out. And here is what that looks like. It's a beautifully simple philosophy. Half of your money goes to essentials, almost a third is just for fun, and the remaining fifth is locked away for your future. It's a really clean way to visualize your money, giving every part of your life a designated slice of the pie. But to actually make this work, we need to get very specific about what actually goes into these slices. So let's strictly define these, starting with your needs, which gets a hard, non-negotiable cap of 50%. These are the absolute essentials, the stuff you literally cannot survive without. We're talking the fundamental four walls: shelter, groceries, basic utilities, and transportation. Oh, and importantly, this also includes your minimum required payments on credit cards or loans. Why are minimum payments in here? Well, because missing them completely trashes your credit score and buries you in penalty fees, which threatens your basic financial survival. Proponents of the rule usually say that if these basic needs are eating up way more than 50% of your paycheck, it might be time to look at some drastic lifestyle changes, like downsizing. Next up, we have wants, which are capped at 30%. Now, this is the fun bucket. It covers the discretionary, non-essential stuff you buy just because you want to. Dining out, shopping for gadgets, concert tickets, holidays. And yes, paying for 4 different streaming services definitely goes in here too, no matter how essential they might feel on a Friday night. This category is absolutely vital because it acknowledges that life is meant to be lived. But you've got to be brutally honest with yourself here. High-speed internet might be an essential need if you work from home, but ordering takeout just because you don't feel like cooking, yeah, that's definitively a want. Finally, the savings category takes that last 20%. This is your financial safety cushion, and honestly, this bucket is doing a lot of heavy lifting. It includes building up your emergency fund, which usually means 3 to 6 months of living expenses, making retirement investments, and crucially, any extra money you're throwing at your principal debt to pay it down faster. This is the big takeaway here. Minimum payments just keep you treading water, but paying extra out of this 20% bucket is what actually drags you out of debt. Okay, to ground this all in the real world, let's put some actual numbers to it. Let's imagine you have a monthly take-home pay of exactly $5,000. How does this super clean percentage split actually translate into dollars you can track and spend? As we can see on this table, with a $5,000 income, your budget translates perfectly into a strict $2,500 for needs, $1,500 for wants, and $1,000 for savings. When you lay it out like this, the appeal is totally obvious, right? It feels incredibly manageable. You know exactly what your limits are for each broad category, and it really forces you to prioritize your spending. Which brings us to Section 3. Why people love it. The appeal of simple budgeting. We have to ask, with literally thousands of fancy budgeting apps and crazy complex spreadsheets out there today, why is a specific rule from 2 decades ago still dominating financial advice? Well, the core psychological reason for its massive success is just this. Simplicity beats complexity every single time. It's incredibly easy to remember. No advanced math required. But even better, it allows people to easily automate their finances. A lot of modern banking platforms let you set up literal pods or buckets, so when your paycheck hits, boom, it automatically routes 50% here, 30% there, and 20% into savings. You get to manage your money without agonizing over tracking every single coffee receipt. It's set it and forget it. Now that all sounds genuinely amazing on paper. Neat, organized, automatic. But when we look at the actual data for households trying to navigate the high-cost economy of 2026, we have to pause and ask a really crucial question. Does a rigid percentage split actually survive contact with reality? Let's dive into Section 4. Does the math add up? Testing the rule against 2026 reality. We need to pivot to the critics for a second and see if these percentages hold up. Because let's be real, the economy has shifted dramatically. What was a totally comfortable middle-class guideline back in 2005 might just be structurally broken today. When we test this against the real world, a completely different picture emerges. Financial experts are pointing out a pretty harsh mathematical reality. The median household today often spends over 80% of their take-home pay on needs alone. Think about that. With average monthly income sitting around $5,600, your absolute essentials can easily eat up $4,600 of that right off the bat. Housing has skyrocketed, groceries cost more, utilities are up. This makes that 50% cap literally impossible for millions of people. If basic survival takes 80% of your check, you simply cannot follow the 50-30-20 rule. On top of that, think about how we actually earn money today. Around 36% of the workforce relies on fluctuating freelance or gig income. Getting the exact same consistent paycheck every month is just not the norm anymore. Trying to shove highly unpredictable variable income into rigid fixed percentage buckets every single month, that is a recipe for incredible frustration. A budget that doesn't bend will eventually break. So, moving to Section 5, the zero-based alternative. If the math of 50-30-20 isn't adding up for you, we have to examine its primary challenger to see what else is out there. Enter the zero-based budget. This is an alternative heavily championed by organizations like Ramsey Solutions. Look at the comparison here. On one side, 50-30-20 locks you into fixed buckets. Critics argue this leads to really slow progress on paying down extra debt because the rule basically says it's perfectly fine to blow 30% on wants even while you're drowning in student loans. But on the flip side, the zero-based approach dictates that your income minus your expenses must equal exactly zero. Now, to be clear, that does not mean having an empty bank account. It means ensuring every single dollar is intentionally assigned a job on purpose. Setting this up requires a totally different mindset. First, you calculate exactly what your income is for that specific month. Second, you cover your essential needs first, those four walls of food, utilities, shelter, and transport we talked about. And third, you intentionally assign every single remaining dollar a specific job based on your immediate financial goals. If your absolute top priority is clearing a loan, you might slash your wants down to 5% and aggressively throw 45% at the debt. The beauty is, the budget changes as your life changes. Which brings us perfectly to our final section, budgeting for your reality. Let's synthesize all of this and figure out how to actually combine these philosophies so they fit your life. Because remember, the ultimate goal isn't to perfectly follow some rule. The goal is to manage your money effectively. Experts from MAPS Credit Union make a great point. The 50-30-20 rule shouldn't be treated like a rigid law. Adjusting your splits to, say, 60-20-20 is perfectly fine if it reflects the reality of higher essential costs in your city. Or maybe a 70-20-10 split is absolutely necessary right now because childcare or housing is eating up a huge chunk of your income. And for our gig workers out there, using a rolling average of your income instead of a fixed monthly number can provide the flexibility you desperately need to make the framework function. So it really comes down to this. A customized budget framework will always beat a budget that only looks good on paper. A spending plan that adapts to your actual, real-world stage of life is always going to be more effective than a one-size-fits-all equation. Whether you like using rough percentages as a guideline or you prefer tracking every single dollar down to zero, the real power comes from actively deciding where your money goes, rather than looking at your account and wondering where it went. I'll leave you with this final thought to chew on as you look at your accounts this month. Are you letting a budgeting rule box you in? Are you forcing your life to fit a rigid math equation written 20 years ago? Or have you finally customized a budget that truly takes control of your financial future today? Because at the end of the day, the right budget is the one you can actually stick to. Thanks so much for exploring this topic with me and keep making those smart financial moves.